welcome back to the Silly Points podcast. I'm here with Rishi Arjun, Lakshya Jain, and Aarav Kapur. I'm Suraj Srinivasan, and we're going to be doing a preview on the Ashes tour that's coming up in Australia. Lots of things to have a conversation about: captaincy, the change of captaincy, Travis Head versus Khawaja, the openers, etc. There's a lot of things to talk about. Hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, we'll just get straight into it. Any major thoughts initially that stand out for you guys?
Which team do you guys think have less issues? Let's start with the team that might have less issues. I think Australia has the more settled team going in.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so it's been a long time since Australia's played Test cricket. Australia's not played since that infamous Border Gavaskar series, which was almost the start of the year. So it's been a long time since their players have played any form of Test cricket. But it looks like obviously there's going to be a new captain. That's Pat Cummins for his series. Steve Smith has been named as deputy, with Tim Payne taking a mental health break from the series. Otherwise, I think Will Pucovski is again injured or has a concussion. I don't remember, but he's at least out for the first couple tests. And Australia have named two openers in the team alongside David Warner. Usman Khawaja and Marcus Harris, but George Bailey has already indicated Marcus Harris is going to be opening.
Which means Khawaja could still play, but he'd be in the middle order. And I think that's probably the better spot for him. He's been in absolute white-hot form in the Shield, so I don't think they go wrong with picking him. But I would say that if that was the route to go, it would be incredibly harsh on Travis Head, who's had really quite a good recent couple of Sheffield Shield rounds. He scored that century, I think against Queensland, very high class inning. It's tough to leave either one of them out, but I personally don't see how you can ignore Khawaja after his recent form. I think he scored 170 odd too, and I mean he's got more experience, he's got more pedigree, and I feel like he's probably a more reliable, consistent bet here if you had to pick one of them.
Yeah, I think.
Do you think instead of maybe someone like a Cameron Green? I know like Green was really good in the India series, but both of them can bat and can bowl too. So maybe not in the first test, but if Green doesn't really perform, then going forward.
Yeah, we're really only looking at the first test.
I think that's a bit dangerous to think about because someone like Cameron Green, an all-rounder like that, needs a lot of patience and a lot of time because these guys take longer to develop. And if you do can him at a moment's notice, he's never going to get better. So I would say it makes sense to just stick with Cameron Green, give him that series, let him make the number 6 spot their own. Look, Australia is heavy favorites for this. They should be winning no matter what permutation they put up. England doesn't have that good of a team.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's a huge deal who they play. Ideally, in my team, Khawaja would open and Travis Head would bat at 5. I've never been super convinced by Marcus Harris at test level. He's probably played that India series and the Ashes, last Ashes, but I've never really been fully convinced by him as a player. I'm a big fan of Usman Khawaja. I've always been. I understood his test omission because of Marnus's rise in Australia, but I do think there is a spot for him as an opener. He averages 96 as an opener from a small sample size, and I think he can definitely play. Even though he's like 35, I think he can still play throughout this WTC cycle. So I'd probably restart with Usman Khawaja over Travis Head. Also, another reason why I started Usman Khawaja over Travis Head is I think one of the things that's always looked down upon with Usman is his playing of spin. But I don't think in these conditions and with England's attack, they're going to have to worry too much about spin.
He's not a bad player of spin. He had an amazing season in the UAE.
Yeah, but he's been dropped so many times because of spin. If you remember in 2017 and the 2016
right, and I think he's been stereotyped and cast as a player who can't play spin because of that. But I don't think it's as backed up by the data as an argument that's taken such deep roots should be.
I think his average against Austin Bowling, he's very, very suspect. But I don't think it's relevant because I don't think England have an off spinner.
England have his Don Bess.
Exactly, England don't have an off spinner. And so when I'm looking between him and Travis Head, I'm looking who's a better player of pace, and I think, yeah, Khawaja is definitely a better player of pace there.
Absolutely agreed.
That's why I'm taking Khawaja. Travis Head's literally the backup batsman. He's basically gonna be the 7th batsman in the team. So
Yeah, I think
I'm sure they'll all feature.
Quite an interesting fall for Travis Head because he, at one point, he was a vice captain of the team, but I don't think he has the runs.
He was dropped in that India series too.
Yeah.
And he was dropped in the Ashes, if I remember, in the last test. So he's never, in these like longer series, these 4 or 5 matches, he's never been able to really keep his spot. And I think the big thing is he only has 100, and that was 3 years ago. He never converted those 30s, 40s into the big innings. But I find it very hard to talk about Australian players' test form, considering we're looking at games from more than 12 months ago against a very, very good Indian bowling attack. I don't think this English bowling attack is going to be even close to what India can do, what India was able to do, even though India was playing backups.
Also, one thing that we should consider is that the last series that they played, they lost to India, and that might lower their confidence. Obviously, Australia is the better team right now, and England might not have a great chance there, but would they be down on confidence, and would that like impact their performance?
Well, England also lost to India, so
yeah,
twice.
They technically lose the series because the series never ended.
I mean, yeah, but that's kind of saying that's kind of like telling someone, don't think about it as you getting fired because before we could fire you, you got laid off. I mean, like, it's not going to make you feel any better.
It's also like as a cricket player myself, like things that happened a year ago doesn't really affect my form currently. It's a pretty long break, like especially if I've played a whole bunch of domestic cricket. There's also been a whole bunch of limited over cricket. Australia are the World T20 champions, so a lot of the players are riding high on confidence as well. That's going to be more recently etched in their memory, even if it's a change of formats.
These athletes make their careers based on short-term memory. They cannot remember these types of failures and internalize them and let them affect them for years and years on end, or even for just one full year on end, because cricket's a game of failure for a batsman. You're not going to have 50s and 100s every innings. You're going to have stretches where you fail. And if you let that root in your head, you're not going to get anywhere. This Aussie team has played so much more than just that one series. I don't think it's going to impact the form.
Yeah. And
also, this England team is not nearly as good as that India team was.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So if we look at this Australian team is like fairly settled once you have to. So obviously Alex, I think just came in today. Alex Carey is going to be making his Test debut. It was the only contender was Josh Inglis, and I think Carey has been. It's been known that he was going to be coming into the team once Tim Payne's time was up. So I think, yeah, I think he has already captained Australia in ODI cricket. He's been their wicketkeeper in that format. So it's pretty stoked for him. I'm not sure how he's going to do. I don't really know anything about him at a first class level. If anyone else can input in.
I know Matthew Wade is more of he's established himself as a white ball player, but why not even try him in tests?
I think he's dropped.
He does have experience. He's been playing since 2010, and he was there before. He was
dropped.
Do you remember why he was dropped? Because he had no form with bat or glove and was basically almost as bad behind the stumps as if you took a good fielder and stuck him with gloves on. And if you're not going to play him as a keeper, fine, play him as a batsman. But here's the problem with him as a batsman. He had absolutely no form any of the times he was picked.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to play him just as a batsman.
No, he played 4 tests since India and he got 0 50s, I believe.
Exactly. If you can't play him as a keeper and you can't play him as a batsman, what are you going to play him as?
Yeah. He's definitely not there as a test keeper. Even as a T20 keeper in the World Cup, he's
quite suspect.
He's quite suspect.
Definitely a good time to bring
I think the only reason
for future captaincy.
Right? Yeah, Alex Carey is
that's probably the
possible future captain.
A big reason for that.
I think the only reason Matthew Wade was in the T20 team too was because he was opening and he played that quick fire knock against India. I think that was really good.
Matthew Wade, he hasn't scored that many runs. He obviously had a very poor India series, and I think he's kind of done in Test cricket. I think when he got picked in 2019, that was his last real chance at Test cricket after repeated failures in early 2010s. And yeah, I mean, he had moderate success here and there, but now I think he's done. I think he's done with Test cricket himself. I think he's just going to focus now on whatever white ball exploits he can do. Probably win Australia under T20 World Cup. But yeah, I don't think Matthew Wood's a contender.
I think the other thing to note about Australia's team balance, right, is if you pick someone like Alex Carey, right, he's not only is he a good keeper, good enough, right, but also Australia doesn't have a settled long-term option yet at the wicketkeeper position. If you pick someone like Matthew Wade, let's just assume Wade's form was decent. Even then, if you picked him, what are you accomplishing? Tim Payne was there because he was far and away the best gloveman in the country. Wade's glove work is not nearly good enough to warrant him taking a spot from a younger player who could develop into a future captain, a future vice captain, a future long-term keeper. And I think that's because I think something like that means it makes much more sense to go with Alex Carey or Josh Inglis than anyone else. And I think Carey's the right move for that.
Yeah, but I disagree that Carey's the next Australian captain.
I said possibly next vice captain, but I'm just saying there's a possibility of it.
It'll just be whoever's okay. I think captaincy is really just based on who's the most settled player these days. So, when you look in this team, with Warner being banned from captaincy, the only settled players are the fast bowlers and Marnus, Labuschagne, and Steve Smith.
Labuschagne is a good contender.
I think Labuschagne's will be the next contender, and that's simply because he's the only one whose spot he is not droppable.
He's in his late 20s, so going into his 30s, that would be the ideal time to make him captain. So, I mean, if he's consistent, that'll be good for him.
Marnus is consistent just fine, but I think the reason he was passed over here is because, think about it this way, he's been in the team already for 4 years. So if he was good enough, if he was really captaincy pedigree, he would have been appointed by now. I don't think he captains the state team. I don't think he captains ODIs or T20s or anything like that. He's not been considered for leadership once.
You could tell from his personality. He's not.
Yeah, I mean, he's not captain material. He's like guys are like that. Nathan Astle was like that. Very good player. Definitely not captain material. Marnus is kind of like that. Do you remember the Justin Langer anecdote where he was like, is that not something I should tell Marnus? You can't just walk onto the field with the toasted ham and cheese sandwich in each of your pockets. Because how do you think that looks when the cameras are trained on you? You're fielding at covers and you start taking a bite out of a sandwich between the balls.
Also, Marnus is like he loves cricket. He's like a child, but he's also like a child prodigy. Those players are usually not captains. Those players they only are named captain when there's no one else named captain because they're the most settled player in the team. That's
what they did with Steve Smith, and it backfired spectacularly because he can't control the team.
Right. So Steve Smith. I mean, even Kohli, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, they're all captains simply because they were the best players in their team.
Marnus.
So yeah, if Marnus is captain of the Australian team, it's going to simply because he is probably the player who's averaging 10 more than all the other batsmen, and they did not want to make a fast bowler captain. But I guess we're wrong because they have taken a pretty bold decision to make Pat Cummins captain. I thought it was fairly bold, especially in this day and age when we really emphasize player rotation and not having to play every single game. I was really surprised to see Pat Cummins be named as captain. What are your guys' thoughts? Obviously, we don't need to talk about him as a player. We all know he's the best fast bowler in the world. Great guy. But the whole point of picking a fast bowler as captain, what did you guys think about that?
So
I think even if it's not a long-term decision, I think picking him for the Ashes it was probably the right thing. It's probably the easiest decision, right? Because he is going to play all of the matches, and he is obviously a great player, like you said. So it seemed like a fairly easy decision, at least short term. I'm not sure about long term. What do you guys think about that?
I would say it was a good decision. It was an interesting decision because the stereotype is fast bowlers are pretty stupid. I don't necessarily think that's true, but I do think...
Yeah. Living example right here.
I do think, as a pacer myself, when you are bowling, it's very difficult to keep track of everything else going on. Bowling itself takes a lot out of you when you're in the midst of your spell, and it can be a little bit much to keep your focus on everything else that you need to have as captain. I think for that reason, Cummins as captain makes sense. He's got an incredible cricketing brain, very smart, capable player, never going to have his place in the team in question, and very good guy who's very well respected by everyone. He checks all the boxes, but it doesn't make sense to have Cummins as captain unless you have a vice captain who is very experienced, knows what he's doing, and is comfortable playing second fiddle while also leading the team when the captain requests it. And that last part, especially, that's what Steve Smith's good at because, you know,
Steve Smith obviously has a lot of captaincy experience. I mean, we know he would be the captain, obviously, if
it wasn't for Newlands. Yeah.
Right.
But he's not the same guy after the Newlands controversy. He's a lot more mature. You've seen it in his interviews, in his game. He's a lot more rounded as a person, as a cricketer.
Yeah. See, the whole reason why I don't agree with making a fast bowler captain, especially like there's a reason why you don't have Bumrah as considered for a captain. You don't have Trent Bolt considered as captain.
They don't play every game.
Exactly. They don't play every game. Okay, like let's so if the whole Taliban stuff didn't happen, Australia would have been playing Afghanistan around this week, I believe. The original schedule. 2 weeks ago, they just played the World T20 final. Pat Cummins was part of that. There is no way Australia was going to play Cummins, Stark, and Hazelwood all in that World Cup final and then play a test match against Afghanistan at home. One of those bowlers would have been rested. And they would probably give him like Jai Richardson, Michael Neser, one of these guys an opportunity to play. Most likely, Pat Cummins, who plays all three formats, plays IPL, would have probably asked for that test match as a break. You can't have
Michael Neser ever going to be... Is Michael Neser ever going to play a test?
No, he's just going to be there in the squad as a backup, and I don't even know what he does anymore. He's just been a backup for like 4 years now. But but back to my original point, right? Players like Cummins cannot play every match in the world. So and players like that usually cannot be named captain because you can't have a vice captain having to step up on every other game because the captain needs rest, right? That's my whole thing why fast bowlers can't be captains. I think the only one who does it is Jason Holder. But that's because West Indies don't have that arduous of a test schedule compared to an Australian team or an England or Indian team, right? Or one of the big three nations. I think this is definitely a one series. They're going to look at Cummins' captaincy as a series basis. Unless he retires from a ODI T20 cricket, then he could be considered, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So
Nathan Lyon could also been a good contender for captaincy. He just got to his 100 tests, and
that was actually my left field pick, Nathan Lyon.
I think if Lyon was captaincy material, he'd have been considered at any level of the game before this, and he never has been.
No, that's because he just leaped into Test cricket. He played like 5 first-class games when he made his Test debut.
Right, but he was never considered for vice captaincy. Even in the scandal after Newlands broke, Lyon was never considered as a captain. His name was never even brought up.
That's obvious because he also had controversy in that series.
See, this is why it's kind of surprising that you don't want Carey or you don't think Carey would be a good option because he'd be a consistent keeper and bat, right? And it's basically
but Carey hasn't even played a test yet.
We don't know. We don't know
that. That's the intent of the board, right? The Australian board. That's where I think that's why they chose Carey.
Travis Head
is true. They have said that. They have said that.
But also Travis Head was supposed to be considered a long-term future captain, right?
Yeah. Ultimately, you can't be a captain if you can't hold your spot in the team.
Exactly.
Unless you're Ajinkya Rahane, in which case you get 15 test score, 50.
That's for a podcast coming up soon. But come on, if we're looking at the Australian team, the captaincy contenders are only the players who have spots in the teams, and out of the batsmen who are not banned or have had a ban, there's just Marnus right now. So that's why, personally, the only person I could see being captain next is Marnus, and that's simply because they have to make it.
It's too big of a goof to do it.
Yeah, it'll be funny. I kind of relate to Marnus, being that cricket obsessed kid that could be a little immature. I've always kind of related to him, and I've never been named captain that much, so I'd be interested to see if he'd be able to do it at the test level.
Unless someone like Will Pukovsky doesn't get injured for the next decade, and I mean he's a great player, so if he doesn't get injured,
I-
he'll be a great option too.
I have
think-
experience with Bukowski's types of injuries.
Hmm.
He's never going to be a reliable captaincy choice for a few
No.
years down the line because of it. When you have that many concussions, anything sets off another one, and it's really, really difficult.
Forget
Because-
reliable captaincy. He's not even reliable as a player. Like, to
And
be
that's
picked.
not his fault. That's
Yeah.
not his fault. He's been injured through freak circumstances, accidents. But the problem is a few concussions make you much more susceptible to another one. And each of them has a worse impact as time goes on. At some point, you have to start wondering about the person himself and, taking care of his health, making sure that you don't push him too much, because it's really, really hard to play with that type of head injury. I've done it. It's not fun. No one should have to do it. And I don't think you can rely on Will Bukowski as a captain, not through any fault of his own, but because these injuries are just brutal and you don't want to put him through that.
Okay, last thing before we finish up on Australia, we just quickly talk about the bowling. I think they will start with Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, and Lyon, but Shane Warne, as he likes to do every other day, today he came out and fully said Mitchell Stark should not play. He's absolute trash. Something he says like every year. So do you see? And I think Australia have said they will look to rotate their fast bowlers, but do you see Jai Richardson playing the first test, first or second?
I think
No.
he'll play a test at some point. I just don't think it'll be the first one.
Maybe if Australia has the series sealed and it's a dead rubber, then I can see Jai Richardson playing. Otherwise, I don't think so.
And based on how England are playing, I'm going to assume a couple dead rubbers in this series, anyways. So yeah, let's move on to the England team. Who I don't think any of us have England as favorites, right, to win the series. Does
No.
anyone? Like,
You guys aren't giving them enough credit. Come on.
for
It's
what?
like- I
think
mean,
if the
they played.
series was in
They
England,
played
then
well
they would
against
have been
India,
favorites.
right? Sure, they're
You
down
have-
2-1, but it's like
They lost at home against India, so that's
also
going to be
India's a great
confident.
team. Okay, so it's
Wait,
like
wait,
they
wait.
were
Let's
at the
try to
peak.
construct a case for England as favorites. Let's just go from here, right? They have the best batsman, arguably the best batsman in the world.
Mhm.
Sure. I mean, they're the better batsman batting at 4 in the other team, but sure.
No. Well, on current form right now,
Based
you
on
can make an
current
argument
form,
for Joe Root as the best batsman in the world.
Wait, is he? Joe Root averages 70, right, this year? I think 77.
78,
Something
something
like
like 80, yeah.
Yeah, Steve Smith averages that in the last 5 years.
I know, but I'm just saying, on current form, you can make an argument for Joe Root.
But
Let's
not in the
concede that.
last
Let's try to construct an argument. Let's concede this to England.
Mhm.
You can say the best all-rounder in the world is in England too. And you can say that one of the best quicks of the last, Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad each average out to about half an elite pacer, because neither of them are gonna play all 5 tests.
Right.
So
Okay.
let's say they've got one elite pacer. Let's go with 2 even. Let's just say they have 2 elite pacers.
Yes.
And what's that?
I think that was my city.
Okay. So if we do a live podcast, it might be over.
It'd be horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. But yeah, continue on. So okay,
let's
so
say
you
England
don't
has
have like
best batsman, best all-rounder. They have 2 elite pacers in Broad and Anderson. Here's the problem. After that, they have a decent wicketkeeper in Joss Butler, a decent-ish opening bat in Hasib Hamid, who's unproven.
wait, is Butler the keeper? I don't even know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Butler's the
Butler's
keeper.
keeper.
I see Bairstow's also an option. Didn't Bairstow play the India series?
Bairstow will play for sure, but Butler will be the keeper.
Yeah, Butler's the keeper. And now here's the problem. You've got a bunch of unproven talent, extremely unproven talent. So Ollie Pope, Hasib Hamid, Jack Leach has never played in Australia before. Rory Burns is not really proven, and he hasn't done that well. Chris Wokes has questions around his overseas credentials. Mark Wood will be lucky if he plays 3 tests.
Two.
Yeah, Ollie Robinson.
Wait, I'm calling 2 for Mark Wood. He'll play 2 tests. He'll bowl
Ollie
well.
Robinson is good, but he
No.
reminds me a lot of Chris Wokes when he came to Australia last time. It's just right arm over the wicket at 130 Ks. He's just going to get hit.
He has the
No.
height though, so he can get the bounce. More so
Yeah,
than
but he
Wokes.
doesn't have the speed needed.
He's not Jameson. Okay, Ollie Robinson's not gonna have a good series. If he does, you guys can take this clip of the podcast and post and be like, Rishi, shut the absolute fuck up. No, Ollie Robinson's not gonna do it. He struggles to hit 130. Okay, like at least Wokes is 135, and he's considered to be still first
Yeah.
conditions.
I would say Wokes is a better bet than Robinson here because I don't think Robinson has the pace. I remember they were talking about how Owen Morgan had a bit of difficulty against the short ball. Colin de Grandhomme came in and tried to bounce him. Morgan just smashed him to the boundary. And the commentator said, we said he had a weakness against a short ball, but not at that pace. Needs a ball 140, 145
Hey, to be
for
fair,
that, but not 120.
To be fair, Stuart Broad is so weak in short balls. I've seen Mohamed Abbas and Vernon Philander bounce him out.
Okay, yeah, but Stuart Broad hasn't been able to bat since his grill got smashed in.
Yeah, but still, they bowl I can pull hook Mohamed Abbas.
Yeah, so
and I bet 8 in B division.
And here's the problem, right? Like
problems. There's a lot of problems.
Yeah, let's say Darwin. Okay, so England's lineup looks like this. You've got Burns and Hamid opening. Those are 2 big question marks. You've got Darwin Milan at number 3. Another, okay, let's say average-ish batsman. You've got Joe Root at 4. Great.
Milan's actually a kind of a proven player in these conditions.
Yeah,
you can kind of say that.
We don't know. He was average in his last series. The reason he looked exceptional is because everyone else was horrible.
No. He was above average. He averaged 41 in that Ashes.
Okay. Let's say so a decent bat at number 3 then. Let's see that. Right. Decent bat at number 3, elite at number 4, great at number 5, Root and Stokes.
Right.
Now we get to number 6. We've got our options among Johnny Bairstow.
Either Pope or Crawley.
It's Pope. Pope scored in the last test.
So the options are Johnny Bairstow, Ollie Pope. Zach Crawley is a universal joke at this point. I don't think
he's Crawley's in the squad. Oh my God.
Crawley's in the squad. Or Dan Lawrence, and neither Crawley or Lawrence are going to crack it. So it's going to be either Bairstow or Ollie Pope.
I think
it's going to be Pope.
It has to be Pope because I remember he had a really good 80 in his last test against
England. Yeah. So Ollie Pope at 6.
And then
that's another unproven player. And then Butler at 7.
Right. Butler, who's not had a great test record either.
Is a batting lineup, just a question for you guys, is a batting lineup of Burns, Hamid, Malan, Root, Stokes, Pope, and Butler good enough to beat the Australian batting lineup?
No. And I mean, you can even say the Australian batting lineup's not that great either. But the
Aussie lineup is Warner, Harris, Labuschagne, Steve Smith.
If we do direct, let's do direct matchups, right? Warner, way better than the 2 English openers in these conditions. Way better than 2 English openers.
Marcus Harris probably cancels out Rory Burns.
Marnus and Milan is not even like a debate.
Root cancel out.
Smith is still. I'd still say Smith in these conditions too is still way better than Root.
But let's just say they cancel out for the sake of benefit of the doubt for England. Let's try to see if we can construct this.
Even in benefit of the doubt, you got Stokes versus Khawaja. You got Khawaja, a player who averages 60 in these conditions, versus Stokes, who's only played a series here once 8 years ago. And
I will say Stokes and Khawaja might be closer than you think, but I think the argument falls apart at number 6 because now.
No, Stokes Khawaja is closer than you think. Most people would say Stokes over Khawaja.
I would too.
In these conditions, I'm gonna say it's Khawaja might be better than Stokes. I mean, Khawaja's record in Australia is pretty much he averages 65. I think he's better than he's as good as Warner.
Ollie Pope and Cameron Green, I think, cancel out largely.
I cancel out, yeah. And then 7, Butler might be a better keeper than Carey, but that's because he's actually played test cricket.
Butler and Carey are probably Butler's probably slightly better, but now here's the problem, and this is where I get into it. Let's look at their number 8, 9, 10, 11. Australia's 8, Mitchell Stark.
Okay, so Stark.
Number 9, Pat Cummins. Number 10, Josh Hazelwood. Number 11, Nathan Lyon. Right? Their number 8 and 9 for Australia are going to get you 20, 30 runs more than England's number 8 and 9 because England's number 8 and 9.
That's very questionable because Wokes can bat. Wokes can get you an easy 30 consistently.
Okay, with this England bowling, if they even get the Australian tail, that'll be a remarkable achievement. Okay, so there's no point debating 8, 9 for batting if you're relying on those guys to score runs.
All right, so my logic is sort of one of the things is Australia. This basically the same lineup other than Khawaja and Carey got bowled out consistently by a B Tech or even a C Tech Indian lineup bowling attack. Right?
Wait, hold up. That's not even true.
What do you mean?
Wait, they didn't it's not like they scored.
There was no Ashwin, right? And there was no.
No. The point you're saying they got bowled out. India did not. India won with their team because their batting made massive run chases.
Yeah,
Australia
India
still
won because
scored.
of their batting.
But as
Australia
in,
still scored runs. Marnus, they scored 350 and 250 in the Gabba test.
right,
And
but you didn't have players like Smith scoring and like significantly at all. And I'm just saying
that
like,
helps Australia's case more because you know Steve Smith's going to score. Like you just expect him to score, especially against England, right? I mean, like they didn't really have too many batting failures outside of that second test at Melbourne. That's when India really destroyed them with their bowling.
Mhm.
But okay, also even the Indian backup bowl, Siraj to me in these conditions is a better bowler than Chris Stokes and Ollie Robinson. Only Australian bowl, only English bowler I think that will have a decent series is Jimmy Anderson. But I don't think here's the whole thing. England will have no clue how to get Steve Smith out. That's in any conditions. That's like fairly obvious. They didn't seem to have too much good to get Marnus Labuschagne out. And in these conditions, Warner is a flat track bully. He loves playing 130K bowling like this all day long. He doesn't even just score runs, he'll score them fast too. He'll set Australia up for massive totals quickly. Then you got a whole bunch of other players who at least have scored runs in their Sheffield Shield. So and they have played fast bowling pretty much the same as England's best bowlers because most Australian bowlers in Sheffield Shield bowl as quick as them. So I don't think it's a close competition at all.
So, when Australia came to England, they were by far similarly the favorites, right? Going into that.
No, it was because we didn't really know what Steve Smith was going to do because it was after his ban. It was
I will also say that's like the same thing. You can't count them as favorites because in England, the ball moves laterally a lot more. And so 130 Ks in England is much deadlier than 130 Ks in Australia. And England have no shortage of bowlers who can test them at 130 Ks moving laterally. That has never been a problem for England.
Yeah, Wokes, Robinson. England are a little unlucky. In fact, they've lost two of their fastest bowlers, in Archer and Ollie Stone for this series.
I do think this series could be a little bit different if Archer and Ollie Stone were there. It would be closer. England would have an outside shot. As it is, I think they'll be lucky to win a test.
I think someone like a Mark Wood could be really effective here because he bowls at 145, 150, and he gets that bounce. So in Australia, I mean, he could be one of their go-to bowlers.
I totally agree. I just don't think Mark Wood's going to play more than 2 tests.
Yeah, the problem with Mark Wood is not ability; it's his body. Like he just cannot play 5 tests, especially in these conditions where you have to bowl a lot more overs than you would in England. I just don't. Mark Wood on these pitches would be great. He's probably England's best bowler on flat pitches, but it's just him that's the issue. It's not. I think whatever matches he plays, I think he'll have success. I don't disagree with that. But if we were
looking at Anderson bowling really well because I see him more of a swing bowler, and in the Australian pitches, I don't think he'll get that bounce and that pace.
But he's still but he's an all-time great. He's an all-time great. He was successful in his last tour of Australia. He's had 2 very good tours of Australia. He's someone who can actually be. He's not your average 130K bowler like a Robinson or Wokes. But that's why I still think Anderson can, because we've seen Anderson even in India. He destroyed the Indian team in home conditions, in Indian home conditions too. So he can bowl anywhere. I think Stuart Broad won't have a good series. As he was very ineffective 2017. I think he's still being ineffective now. I think the only way England could have had a chance is they were able to have those 3 fast bowlers and Jimmy Anderson and be able to rotate those fast bowlers. They could have had a chance. But I think the best bet for England will be that day-night test. That's the one match where Wokes, Robinson, Jimmy, Broad can all really get into it and then target the inexperience of certain batsmen in the Australian team. Because even in 2017, the only test England looked like they could have won was the day-night test because they bowled Australia out for 150 under lights. So... But then, who are going to be England? What is going to be England's bowling attack, right? So you have Stokes is back in the team, so you have the immediate 5th pacer. So now there's no BS of picking a.
I would probably say one of Broad and Anderson, Ollie Robinson, Chris Wokes, Jack Leach, and Ben Stokes, and I don't think that's a good enough lineup. If you want to play Broad and Anderson at the cost of one of Jack Leach or Ollie Robinson, that's also possible, but.
No, Wood has to play Wood will play the first test. I think if Wood is not going to play it, if Wood will be rested for day-night tests, because that's the match they'll play with Wokes and Robinson.
That's true, actually. I was thinking they would rest Wood for the first game, but I think you're right. They'll play Wood instead of Chris Wokes.
Is it the second?
second, yeah.
I would play Wood instead of Ollie Robinson if I'm being honest.
Wood at the Gabba is the flattest wicket in Australia, so Wood will have to play that test, and then probably have to go. Jack Leach will have to play. He's the only pickable spinner in these conditions. I don't. Dom
I
Best.
don't think he's good, but you can't pick any of the other ones.
Yeah, I don't think he'll.
Dom Best is borderline unselectable in Australia.
I think Leach. I don't see spin playing a big part in this. I don't think Australia's a great team against spin, but I don't think they'll have a problem with playing Jack Leach in these conditions.
Why didn't they pick Adil Rashid though?
He doesn't play first class cricket anymore. He's not selectable for tests.
He doesn't play Test at all.
No, he doesn't play first class. Like, he doesn't have a contract. Right. Dom Best plays for Yorkshire. Adil Rashid plays for Yorkshire. Dom Best is Yorkshire's main spinner.
But Dom Best has had a really bad season this year.
He's had a fine county cricket season, actually.
Yeah, he had a good county season.
The problem with Dom Best is that he's not international quality. Bowling in county cricket, very different proposition from bowling in international cricket. He doesn't get enough turn. He doesn't get enough bounce without assistance from the surface. I don't think he can crack it against Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne. They'll basically just take him out to lunch.
I don't think. I think there's only like 3 spinners in the world that can bowl in Australian conditions. Anyways, that's Lyon, Ashwin, Jadeja. I don't think any.
Yeah, and 2 of them played for India. So
yeah, so there's no point talking about spin. I don't think it's a ability thing. It's just, first of all, it's very difficult conditions to bowl spin. So I don't think any spinner in the world would do well here, except for the.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's because like
about going with 4 pacers and Ben Stokes and no spin at all.
And that's a risky proposition, because if you don't go with any spin, relying on 5 pacers just gives you the same diet of right arm over. This is all England have. They don't have a single left armer. It's just going to be right arm over for, I don't know, 130 overs. It's very easy to get in a rhythm. The left armer there creates some foot marks, right? Creates some rough.
How many lefties are in the Australian batting lineup? It's Warner.
We're looking at 3.
Um,
right?
3.
Warner, Carey, possibly Khawaja, and then
No, actually 4. Yeah. 5. Hazelwood is a lefty too.
Bro,
True.
top 7.
Hazelwood won't
yeah.
bat.
We're only looking at top 7. There's going to be 3 because Khawaja, it'll be Khawaja / Head.
Yeah.
Both are lefties. And then Carey and Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stark is kind of half a
It could be
batsman, but
effective,
yeah.
right? Picking, and it'd be good to have Leach in those conditions. Then. There's
Against
3.
But Leach is a left arm spinner. So
So you have the ball turning into them. That's what you want in test match conditions.
No, you want
you want to turn.
You don't want it turning it away. You want it turning into them. That's why you always pick your right arm off spinners, right? For test.
No, batsmen. It's like universally known. Batsmen don't want the ball spinning away. All conditions, all formats. It's like pretty universal.
That's not the case. That's not what I've seen in test format, at least. In the shorter formats, yes.
I think just playing the India New Zealand, Ashwin averages 18 against lefties and 27 against righties. Nathan Lyon averages 21 against lefties and 32 against righties.
Here's the problem with bowling it into the batsman, right? But with bowling it, turning it into the batsman. I'm not saying you can't be successful. You definitely can be, and people have been. Obviously, Ashwin has been an amazing bowler throughout his career. Lyon has too. But the problem comes with this. Fundamentally, if you bowl into the batsman, it becomes a lot easier to present your bat, to present the full face to it, and it's a lot easier to read, turn onto the leg side, and play a variety of different shots. If you turn it away from the batsman, you bring
it forces you to play.
It forces you
into you.
No, Serge, that's a good point. No, Serge, I think on extreme turning conditions, you rather play.
But you're not getting those conditions in Australia. That's my point.
Yeah.
If you are getting those extreme turning conditions, I agree.
Okay, as an off spinner who bats a lot against spin as well, the main reason why I like the ball turning in is simply because I can come down the wicket with no fear. When the ball's turning in and it turns too much, you can just pat it away. But if it turns away, that opens a stumping opportunity. That's like the number one reason why basketball like the ball turning in extremely spinning conditions. Yeah, because then you have to play every ball. While the ball that turns too much is never going to get you out. Turns away from you too much will never get you out. But those conditions are I would say those
unlikely in Australia. Yeah.
Even in India, I don't think those conditions are extreme. If we're looking at just the New Zealand Test match too, right?
Yeah.
It's only like certain wickets where you could find that. I think in every format, every condition, you rather face the ball turning in.
Rishi, the other thing with the ball turning away is that it opens up a few more modes of dismissal too, right? Not just stumping, but also when the ball's turning away, slip catches are a thing too, right? It's a little bit tougher to middle the ball when you actually get solid turn away. I mean,
to be fair, if you pick Leach, then you have both. You have like the greatest off spinner with Root turning it into the right hand or away from the lefties, and then Leach turning it away from the right hand.
So win-win situation.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
He did get a 5-4.
And
100%.
Aarav doesn't know, but Suraj is like a Joe Root like bowling stand. Like he thinks Joe's the best spinner in England. So
hands down. There's no argument.
The last point about the spin thing is also the thing with the right arm off spinners is they also don't have a ball that turns away. Leg spinners and left arm spinners have the natural in drift, and leg spinners have a googly. Right arm I know this very well as a right arm off spinner. It's like my biggest complaint is that we can't really bowl a ball that turns away because they've banned the dusra, and all you can really bowl is a carom ball, and that's a very pickable delivery. Like carom ball is not hard to see from the hand, but it's a lot harder to see a googly or a drifting in arm ball from a left arm spinner. But anyway, I don't think they will play a spinner. I think Australia you can still have some decent success with a spinner, and if it's a really flat wicket, your pacers need a break. So and you don't want you don't want that pace bowler who's giving a break to the batsman to be Ben Stokes because he needs to bat as well. So they'll have Leach just bowl those overs and try to just. The whole hope for Jack Leach, I think, in this series is he can keep his economy under 3 and not get absolutely destroyed. That's a good performance from him because that's what you want. And you want holding conditions, holding spinner in these conditions.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
What about Rory Burns and Hamid? They showed some promise in England, couple 100-run partnerships. Both are playing their first test in Australia. You guys do you think they'll have success? This is a fearsome fast bowling attack they'll have to face, but no, they're not terrible players. These are easier batting conditions than England. That's all.
Burns traditionally struggles against pace or spin, which is there pace, right? Because of his weird backlift.
No, I mean when he comes to India and Sri Lanka, he didn't spin because conditions.
But here in Australian conditions, I feel like pace would be the one that roughs him out.
Well, he's an opener, so he'll be tested at pace first, anyways.
Right.
But he had a good 2019 Ashes against the pace. It's going to be the same pace bowling attack. He had a good Ashes. The question here is whether you could play the short ball. That's a big factor, right? I think the one thing I wanted to talk about is we should actually look into the Indian team there because when you're looking at teams that won in Australia, we only have the Indian team right now to look at because they've won twice here in the past 3 years. If you look at what Indian team has done first off, they have batsmen who play the short ball very, very well. You think of Shubman Gill hooking Mitchell Starc all around in Gabba. They have great hooks and pullers. Rohit Sharma, great hook and puller. Kohli plays the short ball very well. Pujara ducks the short ball very well. So
Pujara had 10 blows into his body.
Right. Yeah, I know, but here's the thing.
They play
the playing of fast bowling is what caused India to win that series, right? They play the short ball a lot better than England. When you look at the 2013 and 2017 Ashes, a lot of England players got hit in those series. Like I know this because Cricket Australia posts videos of our fast bowlers hitting England batsmen, and they just have 5-6 minute clips. So that's one thing. I don't know if Rory Burns can play a short ball. I just think of a couple instances where he has ducked into the short ball, he'll gone into very uncomfortable stances. Root and Stokes to play the short ball obviously very well. Butler can play the short ball very well. But the other players, I don't know about their technique on these faster, bouncier pitches.
Haseeb Hamid plays the short ball well. I do see him having a good series. I mean, not funny, but good story with him. He played that one match against India 4 years ago and then came back to the Test cricket format 4 years later, and he he played well against India, and I think this could be his breakthrough series. This could really cement his place as an opener.
Yeah, it could be his breakthrough series.
There are not many options right now, so
yeah. But here's the thing. If you look at England's last two times, they've come with openers, and then the openers are just gone after the series. Last time it was Mark Stoneman. 2013 it was who was that guy? Michael Carberry, right? A lot of careers are ended here. So I think it's not mentally it's a very tough thing to do. Also, you're gonna have a crowd abusing you. You're gonna have an Australian team that does not hold back. Obviously, like Mitchell Stark is not gonna bowl to you and then say, "Hi, how was your day?" Right? He's gonna use a lot.
Also, after like an Alistair Cook, it's very difficult to replace a player of his stature. So that could be one of the reasons why England hasn't had good success with openers after him.
Mhm.
Cook's also struggled. Cook also had last two Ashes in Australia too. He also struggled. So it's hard for everyone here. So yeah. Series predictions: best bat, best bowler.
I think best bat Steve Smith, best bowler Pat Cummins.
I'm going the England side for batting at least. Root, and then I want to say Anderson. It's not going to happen, but it will be Cummins for best bowler.
Best bat, I'd say Labuschagne, and for best bowler, I'll say something that many people won't agree. I'd say Mark Wood if he plays all of the matches.
Okay. If he doesn't, do you have a choice?
If he doesn't, then Cummins for sure.
Okay, I think best bowler, I'm going with Mitchell Stark because I think he'll clean up the tail. He'll just get those wickets as well. Best bat, I want to say Steve Smith. This is the easy answer, but yeah, no.
Actually, I'm gonna go Hazelwood. He's coming off of really good form.
I can respect that.
I think you can respect picking any of the three.
Yeah.
Wait,
Stark? No.
Actually, let me think. How many lefties do England have in their team? Burns, Stokes, just
Milan.
two, right? Milan. Lyon is not a terrible choice. He's always done well against England. But I'm gonna say Stark. I'm gonna say Stark, and I'm gonna say Steve Smith. If not Steve Smith, then I think if Khawaja plays, I think he'll have a great series. I think I don't see this England bowling attack troubling Khawaja too much. And I have one very hot take. I don't think Ben Stokes is gonna have a good Ashes.
Interesting. I don't think that's that hot of a take. He doesn't have any match practice.
Yeah.
No match. Yeah.
He won't be dropped. Well. Let's just be clear on that. There's no way he'll be dropped.
Yeah.
But he won't have. Are you saying just he will have a very mediocre series?
Like I think he'll batting average will be under 30, and I don't think he's gonna be too much with the ball.
I thought you said 130, under 30. Okay.
He's definitely not going to be as good as he was in the last Ashes.
Yeah,
I will say my disappointment, my sleeper disappointment of a player will be, I can't say David Warner because that feels like cheating. I'm going to say sleeper disappointment for England, probably Ollie Pope. And I would say
I'm expecting Ollie Pope to fail, but okay.
I would say probably the disappointment I would expect for Australia that people might expect to succeed. I'll say that second opener spot, they're not going to get it filled anytime soon. Marcus Harris and whoever they fill in with him, I don't think they're going to do well.
Okay. I think I'm trying to think of some other hot takes I might have about this series.
Mitch Stark is going to do very well, actually. I just realized because none of the England tail can really play high pace that well.
Yeah, I think Mitchell Stark's gonna. But also, Mitchell Stark tends to alternate with his summers. So he had a bad summer last year, and he did his best summer 2 years ago. He does a lot of alternating. So I think this summer it'll be good for Australia. I think, and he likes England. He always plays well against England. I think one other thing is I do think one of the 3 Australian fast bowlers is not going to have a great series though, and Jai Richardson.
Keep it vague. Awesome.
Jai Richardson is going to come in. If Jai Richardson comes in, he's going to have a great start to his career.
Mm-hmm.
And
a good bowler.
And I think Jimmy Anderson will have a good series, and Stuart Broad will not. I think Jimmy Anderson is way, way better than Stuart Broad now. So, yeah. And I think this series will end Butler and Bairstow's careers, test careers. That's my
Say that. Don't say
last take.
Butler's career too.
Huh?
Butler's career too.
No, just Test career.
Okay.
I think both of them after this will be told go be white ball greats, but we need other keepers.
I could see Butler playing in other Ashes, to be honest.
No, if he averages under 30, they're not picking him again, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that covers everything. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good.
All right, cool. Yeah, okay. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, we'll be posting this before you'll be seeing this before the Ashes, obviously, and then we'll also be including the New Zealand versus India series. So go check that out as well.